This is the False Finish podcast, your behind-the-scenes exclusive look into the world of Honorary Wrestling Federation. I am your host, Jason Heat, coming to you from the home of HWF, Lewistown, Pennsylvania, and today I am joined by the hired gun, nothing pretty, Steve Steele. How are you today?
Good, thank you, Jason. It's a pleasure to be here on the False Finish with you, and I really appreciate that bring in. It's very nice of you. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for having me. So I just want to jump right in. The very first time you and I met, we were talking about the Steve Steele character. A reminder, False Finish. This is a behind-the-scenes look. Everything exposed, so you are going to get a look behind the curtain in this podcast. If that's not something you're interested in, go watch some of our other videos, but definitely watch some of our other videos. But so the Steve Steele character, we talked about how it was really inspired by your real life experiences kind of living with and working through PTSD. I think it's really important to break down the stigma as it relates to mental health, and I think it's really interesting that as an artist and a performer, this is a platform you want to use to address that. So before we get into the character, you the man, how do you live with, process, and kind of work through having a PTSD?
Well, absolutely, of course, as anybody else with PTSD or any other mental disability or type of
health
mindset
issue. Yeah.
or health issue at that matter. Of course, I take medication on a daily basis that is prescribed by a doctor, but also wrestling for me is my biggest coping skill. It allows me to escape myself and forget about all of my life issues, my mental issues, my day-to-day problems, and it allows me to evolve myself. Let me move past all the, PTSD episodes and breaking myself down to, why am I having this episode? It doesn't allow me to focus on that. So, in a way, wrestling is kind of a medicine for me.
That's awesome.
And I've been doing this for a long time. And the character itself was originally supposed to be on a YouTube series.
What series was that?
It's called Dead on the Horizon. It really didn't lift off, but I was supposed to be connected with two of the characters as a brotherhood. So we went through war together. We were veterans. We did ungodly things to survive. And then also in that setting, now the new human race was zombies. So now we had to survive yet again. So basically, Steve Steele is a survivalist. He was picked on when he was a kid. He was bullied physically, mentally, emotionally. And it's kind of like myself. Myself as a kid, I was bullied. I was picked on. I was told that I would never be anything. I would never get nowhere. And it just, sometimes it hurts me to talk about it. But then again, maybe anything that I have to say about my personal experiences, my mental health, can help somebody else out there.
I agree 100%. I think sharing your story is so important. Want to talk about that experience, sort of like how you processed the bullying aspect, but continuing down the thread of the PTSD. And I don't want you to feel like you have to share anything that you're uncomfortable with or relive things that are negative. So obviously establish your boundaries and hold on to them. But for you as a person, what were the overall circumstances that kind of led to you having this lasting trauma? What is your life story that led you to have this perspective that you're going to bring uniquely to the world of professional wrestling?
Well, so when I was a young kid, the bullying has some of that PTSD add factors to it. But when I was a young kid, my grandfather had PTSD. He was in the military, and he came home a whole different person. So I seen the effects without having PTSD at that time.
Can you dive into a little bit more about like sort of you seeing as a child the difference between your grandfather before he went off to war and then seeing him after he came back, and what that impression was like for you as a kid?
Not too many people remember, 3, 4, 5 years old. You know, before my grandfather went off to war, I was 4 years old. You know, it was different then. He was a loving, caring man. He was always active with the family. He didn't show his anger much. He didn't drink as much. But my grandpa, when he came back from war, I was 5 years old, about to turn 6, and he was just completely different. He would walk around without saying a word, blank expressions, wouldn't show much feeling. He was still loving to us grandkids, but I noticed a little more than most. And, God rest his soul. He was a great man, even if he didn't show the emotion that he was feeling at that point.
Did he ever feel comfortable talking to you or anyone about what he had experienced, or was he sort of deeply set and internalizing it and having to kind of try to white knuckle through it?
I think he was just trying to drown it with alcohol. He started drinking real heavily after the war, and I'd go up and ask questions, and he would respond. And it would just be in that, real mellowed, dead tone, and it was kind of like he was speaking to a nothingness right in front of him. So it was kind of painful when you're asking your grandfather for some advice, and he just nonchalantly and comes out with it with no feeling in his voice. So that I think that was the start of me realizing that mental health is really important.
Yeah.
And you have to take care of yourself in order to take care of other people.
That's incredibly, incredibly true. And I'm glad that we sort of have hopefully more and more a generational understanding of that, and the ability to discuss and talk openly and sort of access those feelings and be able to address them and not have to be hidden inside and kind of just shoved underneath the surface.
Certainly.
So that was your first experience, but then obviously you experienced some stuff individually yourself.
Individually, yeah.
Yeah. What's the next chapter of your story?
The next chapter of my story is, I was into my early 20s, and I've come close to my father's uncle, which is my great uncle.
Yeah.
And there was this tree that we hunted at every year. We'd shoot turkeys, we'd shoot squirrels, and it was just a really good time. Well, some uneventful things happened drawing that line, as you told me. This is one of those lines. I won't get into names. I won't get into reasons.
Absolutely.
But there was a reason, and one day my uncle went missing, and I was staying over at my great-grandparents' house on my father's side. And this was after my dad passed away and my grandfather's passed away. And I was living with my uncle and my grandmother on my dad's side. And I was staying at my great-grandmother's house, and my uncle was nowhere to be found in the morning, and usually he's up at like 5 a.m. raring ready to go. And my great-grandmother called my grandmother, my dad's mom, to come get me so she'd go look for my uncle. Well, come to find out that he was down there by that tree and shot himself.
I'm so sorry.
So suicide is very deep of a subject for me, because I've had 2 people, one that I have not witnessed, that still gave me PTSD because I was so close to him, and the fact that, with the way he shot himself, I couldn't see him. I couldn't say goodbye.
Yeah.
And then, later on down the road, in my early 20s, and developed a relationship with this young man, and he shot himself right in front of me, about the distance from you and I.
Can't imagine what that's like.
And I loved him dearly. I only knew him for about a year, but I loved him deeply. He was like a brother to me. And some graphic things happened, and it really sank into my head. And I'm on medication to help me with the nightmares and the flashbacks, and help me stay asleep and not go into a reoccurrence of that situation every day of my life.
And let's make sure that we don't do anything that sort of like sets that off for you. But for people who don't know, for people who may not have the experience to kind of help educate, if you're comfortable, what is it like to experience that PTSD actually? Like, how does it manifest? I feel like people don't have a real understanding of what that is, and therefore they may not be able to empathize with it in the way that is productive and is necessary in terms of that. So what, like, physiologically, mentally, when you're experiencing that, what is it like?
So some people are triggered. Mine are mentally memory burned into my brain.
Like seared in images.
Yes, it's very seared in. So if I hear of a situation, or like if I would hear a gunshot, that would trigger a PTS moment. I would have a flashback. I would go into cold and hot sweats, and I would have a little freak out moment.
Yeah.
I'd hold my head. I'd walk around. I'd shake my head. It's very disturbing to see that image replay and replay and replay for however long that episode is. But the medications are important in any situations for any kind of disability or disorder.
Yeah.
It's very important because these medications may not stop them completely, but they will dull them down and shorten the episode.
And tell me if I'm wrong. Obviously, I'm not speaking from the same level of experience, but hopefully they help you establish control and ability to process and to sort of like interrupt the cycles that happen that can then like take over you.
Exactly. And you also have to have that coping skill too. Mine's breathing.
Yeah.
When that click goes on and the light turns on and those images are coming, I breathe. I try and breathe through it. I don't try and move around. But sometimes your body overtakes your mind. And I'm getting better at, controlling my mind so I can have control over my body.
What was the process like that? Obviously, you've talked about medication is one of the skills that you've learned, but what was the journey towards dealing with it? I mean, so many people avoid for understandable reasons. They never get to a place of developing skills for coping and managing and truly living with. What was your first step towards addressing it rather than avoiding it?
Believe it or not, I put myself in a situation to where somebody would fire a gun right beside me, and it's actually been helping. Some people, can't face that fear directly head on.
Mm-hmm.
But, everybody in my family, they hunt. They like to target practice and all that. And as
the survivalist
a kid,
aspect of your character is a part of your real life culture.
Yes, it's part of my real life culture. Steve Steele's not me. I'm not Steve Steele, but we are one person. It's a separate character. You know what I mean? I may be I may not be that same person in life, but he is an aspect of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So my character is himself, but he has parts of me, and I have part of him.
It's such a very specific choice to excavate that part of yourself as part of the wrestling persona. Wrestling can be an escape, or it can be a chance to deep dive into you, but you had options to be anything and anyone, and you chose to kind of directly address this part of yourself with wrestling. Why is that? Why have you decided this is the part of you that wrestling is best suited to process with?
It's the simple fact that, not too many people see too deep in Tyler Baines. Some people don't understand, some of the things that, I've seen, I've been through, I've experienced. And, the people who are close to me, sometimes, they say that they understand. But I know deep down inside of me that they really don't understand the parts to where I have really come from a hard place to make progress to be a better person.
Yeah.
So that's my specific reason why I wanted to dive deep inside and let him show the emotion that I feel inside every day.
It's really early on in your journey with this character. It's really early on in your artistic process with this. But have you learned anything new so far, either about you yourself through the character or about, from audience responses to the character yet? What has been that journey like as it relates to the actual creating of Steve Steele?
Well, the big thing that I've learned is that, whether you're a good guy or a bad guy, there's always somebody that's going to love you.
That's beautiful, man.
It's something that I've been holding on to for these past 6 months that I've been training professionally with the HWF and, the guys like TRK and Ray Scott and RD Mosh, Edward James. It's been surreal because this has been a dream of mine personally since I was 8 years old. And first time I clicked on the TV, it was instant. I saw Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock going at it in the Attitude Era. And I looked at my mom and I said, someday I'm going to be there. I'm going to be wrestling like these guys.
What was it about it? Do you know what the sort of je ne sais quoi of it was when you were watching that hit you and made you go, that's me, that's going to be me, I have to do this?
Well, they're there to entertain people. They're there to put on a show and, to showcase what they've learned and pretty much tell a story.
Yeah.
And I like to entertain people. I like to tell stories. I like to make people feel that energy. Like at Animosity. Steve Steele was supposed to have a match with Ray Scott, but that didn't happen. The result of that was, he saw a bigger opportunity and he wanted to go after it. So he did. He took out Ray Scott and laid him out on the floor after taking his head off the ring post and pretty much bent down and told him that you ain't got the caliber. I don't want you. And aligned himself with Eric Ekton.
Yeah.
And
by the end, Edward James as well.
Yeah, and by the end, Edward James. And I'm not sure where that's going to go, but I think that could be a deadly force waiting to happen.
Do you find that being able to exercise, and I say exercise with an E because I'm going to use a different word in a moment, but that exercising this aggression in a very safe, controlled, entertaining, but also like role-playing style helps you exorcise some of that same aggression from your real life? Is it totally separate? Like, do you feel calmer afterwards, like you've let some steam out, or does it end up maybe unintentionally like building it up inside of you? How does it relate to like the way you process your emotions in real life by having this opportunity to sort of like explore them in the ring in this safe role-playing space?
I believe that, yes, sometimes I don't know about all guys, but sometimes when I'm having a really crappy day or I'm really upset and angry with myself or something else that has to do with my life, that coming here into this element of wrestling and training at Mifflin County Wrestling Academy does help me release some of that tension, some of that weight off my shoulder.
Yeah.
And it does help me with my mental state. A lot of people don't know that a lot of the professional wrestlers have this.
Absolutely.
They have not just physical pain, but mental pain, emotional pain. And I can't speak for them, but for me, this is a total help to me.
How so? I'd love for you to talk about how accessing and utilizing and processing your trauma through the art of professional wrestling, how does it empower you, Tyler? How do you feel it's building you up as a person?
Well, when I was younger, when I first met Matt Silks and Trista Silks and all of them, it was 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was a rough punk. Like, I would take no criticism. I had no respect. I had no self-respect. Had no confidence. A lot of arrogance, though.
Yeah.
I mistaked arrogance for confidence. And throughout those years, from 2010 up to 2022, it's been a whole maturity evolve
Yeah.
from then to now. Kind of like back then. Excuse me. Back then, when I started and I met them, I was very prideful, very, very ignorant, very disrespectful. I didn't care. I didn't care. I did not censor myself. I did not feel like I had to say thank you or you're welcome. I had no manners. But compared to today and then, I've done a whole 360, and it's really all thanks to Matt Silks and his family, his entire family. Matt, Chuck, Trista, Matt and Chuck's parents.
Yeah.
They took me in like I was one of their own.
I mean, I have only known you for a few months. This is by far the most in-depth conversation we've ever had. So 2 things. 1, thank you for being so open and vulnerable and intimate with me personally and also with our audience, because I think this is really important, and like genuinely thank you. And 2, again, I don't know you super well. I've only gotten a chance to see what you've given to me so far, but I certainly don't recognize the person that you just described. I believe you that that is who you are, and I believe that like parts of that are still in you, because we all are just growing more than maybe changing and learning. But for what that does for you in terms of a positive response, to let you know, I would never have guessed that. I don't see that. I don't experience that. So credit to you for all of the really like hard work and mental and emotional development that you've done.
It's just dedication. You have to be dedicated to yourself, along with being dedicated to something else that you truly want, that you're truly striving for. And professional wrestling is my strive. That is my biggest dream in my life.
The wrestling training, Mifflin County Wrestling Academy, is such a huge part of the DNA of HWF. Obviously, we bring in some really top level talent from the region, and I hope that continues, because I think that the way wrestlers grow is
best of the best all the way up and down the Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah, that's what I want to see that, and I want to see more of that. But the core group is this training school. That's the goal, is to build that up. That's a system that makes a lot of sense. It's worked in a lot of pro wrestling companies. The camaraderie is such a huge part of the equation. You've talked about how this is a family. That gets thrown around a lot, but we're quite literally now in someone's family house that serves as the HWF headquarters. Can you talk about the camaraderie and just what that means to you and how important that is to HWF as a company and you personally and your training?
Absolutely. Like, for starters, for me, this business is like my life's blood. You know, HWF, this brand, it
means a lot to you.
I love this business. You know, it means 110,000% more to me than any value monetary money that you could hand me, saying, "Oh, would you sell me HWF?" For no. I would not sell HWF for nothing.
Yeah.
It is very important, and it's a part of my life, and it always will be. Even after I'm long gone, you know, retired, hanging the boots up, I'll still want to be here, because these people mean a lot to me. They're here through my ups, my downs, my indifference. You know, if I'm, you know, I got hurt in training, and the amount of messages and love poured my way was just immense. Like, you can't get that anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, you have friends that say they're friends to you in your real life, But then you come to a place like this, and you're shown genuine, straight up, strong style love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know how many times, you know, our owners and our president, you know, our booker, straight down to the talent, messaged me during those 2 weeks, even though I was coming to training, and said, "Hey, how you feeling? How's the shoulder? Are you okay? You know, we hope to see you back soon." And after those 2 weeks are up, I went to the doctor, and she's like, "You're good. You're good. You're all healed up. You're cleared to go." I went last week to see her again, just to double check, make sure, you know, because, you know, I do lift heavy stuff.
Sure.
I help my mom. I don't work for her, but I help her in her business. And, you know, we have a lot of heavy stuff there too. But just making sure that, you know, I'm really good to go, that I'm all healed up. And, you know, I've been bumping for the past few weeks now after those 2 weeks are up. And I feel really good. The shoulder is really good, and I was cleared. So, you know, and this is what I love to do. And I love this family. I love this crew that we've set up, and it's just amazing.
Well, let's talk about love. You made your hometown debut fairly recently. You had already performed with another company, but your sort of official HWF debut,
Right.
And you're a heel. You're a bad guy. You were working your ass off to get hated.
Yeah.
I know that. But they loved you.
Yeah.
So 2 questions to that. One, how did that feel? As someone who maybe has struggled to feel affection, as someone who's maybe wanted that and sort of craved that at a young age, you
Right.
described your grandfather.
Right.
How did it feel to get that reception as a person, but then separately, as a heel, your challenge is to
Yeah.
get these people to hate you. What's your plan to kind of address this like beautiful outpouring of love, but that's totally counterproductive to your current set of artistic goals? Let's
Right.
handle that in order. So first, how did it feel?
Well, first it felt that, you know, it felt great. You know, this is my hometown. Those are my people. It almost brought me to tears, but as you said, I had to stay in character and, you know, look mean, and, you know, it was great. But I wish they would have booed me. I really do. I wish they would have, because I would have got a lot of enjoyment out of it. Not that I didn't get enjoyment out of being cheered, but that was.
So what are you going to do?
Beautiful. That was the most beautiful moment of my life. It was.
I don't want to step on that. That's really amazing. But now that you've had that moment, what are you going to do to get these people to hate you?
I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't have no clue. I'm kind of working on that in my head. So, you know, we have another show coming up, and obviously I can't talk about all that I'm doing there, but hopefully maybe I can make a moment to where, you know,
Really changes the impression.
On Steve Steele and, you know, what he's about.
We're going to start to wrap up, but I do have a question for you before we finish, which is for you, what is your goals as a professional wrestler? What's sort of most important to you to accomplish? It could be short-term, it could be long-term. What do you want to do as Steve Steele in the world of professional wrestling?
Well, my first challenge, my first goal is I want to become indie pro wrestling's new monster.
All right.
So, you know, in HWF, that's Ray Scott. So I guess, you know, Steve Steele has to, you know, put a beat down on him a little harder than he did at Animosity.
Terrorize, demoralize, and
Yes.
murderize?
Yes, very much so. And you know, if he has to survive and take that spot, put him out for good.
Well, that is the false finish. Well, actually, it's not. It's the false finish. So we got one more question for you. Steve Steele, not looking right now at, like, let's say WWE and AEW, but on the independent scene of people that realistically we could bring in to HWF. HWF, who is your dream opponent? Who is the person that right now you absolutely most want to test the mettle of the monster against?
I tagged with them at AON, and I just want to shout them out too. You know, they gave me a shot.
That's All or Nothing Wrestling, by the way.
Yes, All or Nothing Wrestling. Emily and Mike, they were amazing. Mike's awesome. And that happened. That opportunity came because my trainer and friend and brother wasn't feeling well that day, and I just so happened to be going down there with another guy that trains here, and he had a show there too, and I got to be a part of the winning tag team with this gentleman I'm about to name, and we got to go into the Rumble at the end of the night. I worked with him, and he's awesome. I loved him. He was great. Squid Sterling, I'd like to see him come through here, and I'd like to work a match with him.
So the Survivor List is usually going out hunting in the wilderness, bears and boars, but maybe he wants to harpoon a squid in an HWF ring sometime soon. Steve, again, thank you so much for being a part of the show. Thank you for being intimate and vulnerable and open and honest, and being someone who hopefully can really open some doors for people to understand more about the importance of mental health and PTSD, and how art and pro wrestling in particular could be a really empowering tool for people who are looking to directly kind of address that. If you are on the internet, where can people find you? What are your socials? Where can people support you, and how can they support you?
Well,
That's right there.
I have one, and I only need one. So I have Steve Steele on Facebook, and that's for anybody, you know, anybody who wants to go there and follow. I got a lot of stuff that I keep up on. I post, and definitely check out Jason Heat's, you know, False Finish.
Yes. And also, if you are looking to find some more Jason Heat, you can do so. My podcast, Collected Possibilities, an existential explorer's guide to carnivals, fairs, festivals, amusements, arcades, and attractions, comes out every week, Wednesday at 6 a.m. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. Go ahead and look up Collected Possibilities. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Collected Possibilities, and you can email me, collectedpossibilities@gmail.com. This was the False Finish for Honorary Wrestling Federation. Please make sure to stay tuned for more episodes of this show with members of the roster, members of the office. No one is safe. We're diving deep into all the holes backstage. We're shining a light everywhere so that you get to see everything about the HWF that you love. Stay tuned to all of our socials and watch for more shows.